You gotta be kidding me!
Hey, what's going on, guys? Today we're going to be taking a look at another Shadowlands beta Guardian Druid dungeon guide. This one is changing pace a little bit. We're getting off the invincible train and hopping on the pumper train. This one is for the Guardian Druids that like to get up in there, throw their claws up in the air and wave them like they just don't care. That like to get in there, pump out some damage and look damn good doing it too. This one is for the Guardian Druids and Legion who put on luffas and never took it back off. This one's for the Thrash Boys! Let's get after it. Before we get started, I'd like to take a second to thank the sponsor of this video, and that is my Twitch stream. You can find me there pretty much every night from 5 to 10 EST, hanging out with the rest of the Rage Nation at twitch.tv/RagingBeardedScot. About what I thought they should. Alright, so just like with last time, we're going to be looking at 3 different ingredients that's going to go into this rotisserie turkey, alright? First is going to be talents, then legendaries, and conduits. Alright, so looking at talents, we're going to be going for any one that amplifies the effects that Thrash contributes to any encounter. This means damage done, radius, rage generated from each, the number of stacks you can apply, things like that. This means the talents you're going to take moving down the tree are as follows: Blood Frenzy, Balance Affinity, or an argument can actually be made for Resto, Heart of the Wild, Incarnation, Earth Warden, and lastly Rend and Tear. Now the reason I said an argument could be made for Restoration Affinity is because the entire build that we're looking at today is designed around getting in with Incarn up and dealing an absolute ton of damage to an absolute ton of mobs, and then taking the threat you've generated and kiting those mobs out. And while you kite, you can either use Heart of the Wild for Balance Affinity to continue to deal damage, or swap into your Resto spec, start casting heals on the party. It really is up to you and the comp that you're running with, but regardless, it's super versatile, super fun. As always, all the information you see here was collected either in-game on the beta or from wowhead.com. Let's now take a look at the legendaries. The one that we're focusing on today is Ursoc's Fury. What it does is causes your Thrash in bear form to have a 15% chance to trigger an additional Thrash. Now, those of you that were running around as bears in Legion may remember we had the exact same passive ability on the secondary ring in our artifact weapon. It was called Positive Outlook, and it was absolutely potent. I mean, I remember Guardian Druids sometimes getting lucky enough to have 11 and 12 deep procs of Thrash based on that ability. However, unlike Positive Outlook, Ursoc's Fury also gives you a 75% shield based on the damage that Thrash grants. So on top of the absolute nutty damage that you're doing with Thrash and the absolute crazy procs, you're also getting a 75% bubble around you while it's going off. This is where the real meat and potatoes for this build actually comes in, because as long as you can pull large enough, and God forbid you've taken Venthyr, you're pumping out bonkers damage, and that bubble is just continuing to stack. On top of that, you've got nothing really to spend rage on except for Iron Fur, and I'm going to show you in Conduits why that's going to be over the top. Now looking at Conduits, they play a little less of a role than they did in the previous build discussed. However, they are still very important, and there's a couple key ones you can take to amp up both the number of Thrashes you're able to get out and the damage they do when they land. Now, as Venthyr was the Covenant of my choice for this run-through, I was able to select Endless Thirst as one of my Soulbind conduits. This increases the critical chance of my Ravenous Frenzy stacks by 0.5%. And as a Guardian Druid, you know that Ravenous Frenzy gets synced up with Incarnation nearly perfectly. The second Soulbind conduit I chose was Unchecked Aggression. This causes me to gain 15% haste during Berserk in bear form. More haste, more Thrashes, more Ravenous Frenzy stacks, more damage. These next 2 Soulbind conduits aren't horribly necessary for the Mongo damage build we're putting together today, but I did find it interesting how well they synergized with it. The first of which is Ursine Vigor. For 4 seconds after shifting into bear form, your health and armor are increased by 12%. It's kind of huge seeing that this entire build is oriented around controlled large pulls, which means you can shift out and then back into bear form at the start of one of these pulls to buff up your health and armor before you've started generating rage. Lastly, the final Soulbind conduit I chose was Layered Mane, which is super fun as you don't really have anything else to spend your rage on when Incarn is going off, aside from Iron Fur. So you're able to get 10, 11, 12 stacks of Iron Fur off of this ability because it has an 8% chance to apply an additional stack. All right, now that all 3 ingredients are in the pan, slap that puppy in the oven and let it base for about 6.5 hours, because you got yourself one lethal Guardian Druid. Instead of talking your ear off, I'm just going to let you guys watch one of the pulls that is a perfect example of how you play this build. Guys, if you enjoyed what you saw here today, be sure to like and subscribe. It means the world to me. And if you really liked what you saw, hop over to Twitch. Hang out with me there. Talk to me about Guardian Druids or any other kind of Druids for that matter. Have a fantastic rest of the day. Tell someone you love them. And cheers to you fine people.